Welcome to Archery Country Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Archery Country Podcast. This is Wade. We are in the Waite Park studio today. Directly to my left, I have John. On my right, I have Brandon, better known as Buck. And then, of course, for everybody that has been listening to our podcast, this one's a special treat, especially the guys that really are passionate about fitness, the train to hunt guys, the backcountry do-it-yourselfers. We have a guest with us that is phenomenal in all of those categories. He's one of our great customers, and he is truly like the icon that you probably don't know when it comes to backpacking in the backcountry, hunting, doing all that. And today, we're just going to go around the horn. We're going to talk to him. We're going to see, what he does, tips and tactics, and we're going to talk to him about what he's shot in the past, what he's shooting this year, and his hunts and everything. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, straight across from me, we have Mr. Jim Schulte. How you doing, Jim?
Good.
Glad to have you on. And Brandon and John, you guys are, Jim very well.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to kind of lead this as we get into it. But Jim, if you wouldn't mind, just take us on a little crash course, a little history about you and, how you kind of got started in your hunting and your archery background, and then what drove you into the fitness side of things and mental and physical preparation.
Sure, yeah. I started in archery back in the early 90s, honestly, and started shooting then and doing a little bow hunting around Minnesota. Nothing too nuts. And then as time progressed on and moved in through life, I started getting into it more and more. Shooting Archery Country League, doing a bunch of 3D shoots throughout the area, and then finally jumped in and started doing some out-of-state hunts. Sort of seemed like a big leap at first, but once you get doing it, it's really not that hard to navigate the systems of each state.
So my job as a host is to paint a pretty picture for everybody who's listening in. And if you were to look at Jim, for those of you that know him, you already know, but he would be like the Rambo of archery. This dude is chiseled, and I'm not being weird, but just like he's ripped and he's ready to rock, and he could tackle any mountain face or go anywhere. But you live here. You're from Minnesota, born and raised in Minnesota?
I am. Yep.
And but you do a lot of other things besides you're out west hunting and getting prepared for that. Some of your preparation is just simply camping and not like an overnighter in a tent in the backyard. You're actually, simulating what you're going to see out west and doing that.
Yeah, we actually just got back from a simulation trip up on the North Shore. We went in with my hunting partner on a Friday afternoon at about 4 and walked out on Sunday 38 miles later at 1.
38 miles?
Yeah, we camped a couple nights and
on your feet.
Yeah, spent the evenings, and watched the sunset. And
so, like Jim,
it wasn't like we were walking all through the night or nothing.
Yeah.
But
and you guys, while you were doing that, you're kind of, you're trying out gear for your hunt. That was the idea behind that, or what?
Yeah, I actually just upgraded my tent system and sleeping arrangements. So I wanted to try that out, see how that was all going to work out. Everything worked out really nice. Ended up getting a Z-Pack tarp and then their Z-Pack quilt. And my tarp all loaded up, ready to go with stakes and everything, weighs 10 ounces.
Really?
Yeah, and my it's a 20-degree quilt now that I got down 19 ounces in the stuff sack.
So you're like sub 3 pounds
on sleep system.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
has that been like a work in the progress, from your elk hunts before or camping trips before that you've?
Yeah, I started out the process extremely heavy, if you will. Decent gear, but really heavy stuff. And through the years, I've just whittled down weight. And
so can we regress here a second? I want to ask Jim. So obviously you've started shooting archery in the early 90s. Mainly hunted Minnesota for a few years, got your feet wet with whitetail, all that kind of fun stuff. And I know you whitetail hunt pretty heavily in Minnesota, and not just like one basic farm. You hit up a few different areas in Minnesota. Let's start with like the very first elk hunt you went on. Guided, unguided. Where were you? What was it like? And let's start there.
Oh, the first elk hunt I was on was in Colorado. It was a draw unit that we draw the first time we put in for. And it was a outfitter drop camp. So we had a wall tent set up with cots in it. And then we went up and hunted from there. We actually brought our own spike camp, made spike camp on a different area. I thought maybe there was just to get away from where other hunters had been in the wall tent, because the wall tent's obviously stationed there for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then from there, did you guys get into elk on that trip?
we did get to see some.
Yeah.
No shots at nothing on the first trip.
Yep.
So would you say like that first trip then, is that you kind of got a taste for, is that what like really drove
Yeah,
you?
definitely.
You got the itch.
I was within 30 yards of a really, really nice bull and just in the brush, and had no opportunity to even get my bow drawn back, much less fling an arrow. So, but just seeing the critter that range and on the ground and that big, and
That lit the fire.
yeah, that was it. Like I say, I always did some workout stuff, some training. But on a 7-day hunt, and you want to walk 4 or 5 miles a day, on the low end of things,
Mm-hmm.
on the 4th day, your legs don't really want to go that well, especially if you're doing up and downs in that day. Yeah, if you're walking around at one elevation, it isn't, maybe the end of the world. But when you got to change a couple thousand feet in elevation from morning to evening and do it again
And again.
and again, and you get tired. And so I just noticed my falling off towards the end of the week, and really didn't want to give up my time in the woods because my legs or my back or my shoulder didn't want me to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That time is valuable. We only get so much of it.
Right. There's only so many Septembers. There's only so many days that I get to be off in September. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So when you guys were on this hunt, and earlier in the podcast, you had said, started hunting in Minnesota and then finally got over that unknown of going out of state. That first time you went out, partially guided drop camp, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that got your feet wet. You got out west and you're like, all right, this is lit. This is what I like. What from there, what was the next step? You got over that unknown of going. Did you go with people that you knew, or what triggered that first trip?
Actually, someone here from Archery Country talked me into going out with them for the first time.
Okay.
And that's where I started going to the elk hunting side of things. I've hunted in Hawaii previous to that for out-of-state stuff. Was probably one of the harder licenses that I found to get.
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you get it, it's easy to get back and keep. But you actually, when I did it, you actually had to physically send paperwork to them, and then they vetted you from there for your licenses. So,
What were you hunting in Hawaii, Jim?
we hunted Spanish goat, ibex goat, pigs.
And that is that kind of like in the, like kind of somewhat the mountains? Would you call it the mountains in Hawaii, or like the volcano range or something?
on the mountains.
So even that's kind of can be a butt kicker, I suppose, in certain spots.
For sure. It's it goes from sea level to I think 10.5 in 3.5 miles.
Oh yeah, so some steep stuff.
Right. It's
That's steeper than steep.
yeah. I mean, 'cause you can see out to the ocean the whole time you're hunting, and then drop into these little valleys and canyons and washouts from lava chutes, and it's
Is that
it's a tough hunt.
target rich once you get into them?
It really, yeah.
You get some shooting in?
Yep, you can definitely get some shooting in.
So when you say a tough one, you're not talking so much like finding the game. It's just, it's getting to them.
Yeah, sometimes it's getting to them. The hog hunts weren't as so much physical tough. The goat hunt, just because of the terrain that you had to go up and down, up and down, up and down through these washouts to get to where they were, that way it became a...
So then are you guys, like when you're in Hawaii and you're shooting these goats and hogs, are you packing them out then? Or how you getting them out once you... Is it just like elk, throw them on your back? And
yeah, we're quartering it up and deboning most everything there. Late in the day, I guess we have just quartered it and thrown them in, bone in, and come out that way heavy.
So as far as, and for those of you that have already sparked an interest in this, you clicked on the podcast because we talked about out west preparation and do it yourself. A lot of our listeners are going to be searching for the heart of this podcast. And I think that leads with just a few stories you just told us. You do a lot of research, a lot more than any of us here. And Brandon and John, you guys go out west quite a bit, and you do some rugged terrain as well. And you can add in on this, but for me to sit here and read like a product or do a product review on packs or sleeping bags or, just all of that information, you guys are living it, and especially you, Jim. You're going through this. Like you said, you started with a heavy, now you're super light, and you're satisfied with your sleeping arrangements on that. Take us through how important your gear is, and you can give us a little insight on some of your gear. And then I don't want to steer down the road of preparation as far as physical fitness, but just for like do some gear that you find, and that's the great thing is we're not worried, we're not name dropping, we're not trying to sell anything and everything that you see, the best, and the good and then the worst, and kind of go through that for your equipment.
Sure. I have a whole room of different gear that I've tried through the years. Like I say, I've tried heavy, medium, light, all kinds of different brands of stuff through the years. But right now, I got my everything down. I run a jet boil cook stove. I just tried some Next Mile meals. A pretty good meal. And then I've been doing some stuff off the North Shore, Camp Chow it's called. So for freeze-dried meals for evening or lunches, depending on where you're at there. I run mainly Sitka gear just for the fact that, anytime you get in any moisture or rain and you come out of it and the sun comes back out, you're basically dry as by the time it happens. It's just amazing how fast that happens. I do carry a light long john, really light long john, and then my main pant. I carry a puffy pant and coat just for sitting glassing times in the mornings, chilly. A light beanie, hat, extra pair of socks, and honestly, just the food, game bags.
Yeah.
A few essentials, first aid kit.
And when we're talking this gear list, we're talking archery elk hunting. So this
archery elk.
This is September. This isn't late season rifle hunt.
No, not cold weather.
Yeah.
So
what do you run for boots, Jim? Have you tried a bunch of different ones and just kind of your feet like a certain style or a certain?
Yeah, I ran them Salem's for probably 4 years. I don't know if they're X4s or something. They seem to make it a 1 year for me. Partial training and then hunting. And by the time the next season comes around, I'll use them for training with them, and they just won't hold water. You go out even the dewy morning, your feet are wet, So I went to a leather Zamberlin. No. I've run that for about the last 3 years, and it's really been a good boot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been liking it. It's maybe a little bit heavier than some, but really rigid sole.
Yeah, and then what are you carrying, all your stuff for a pack? What are you carrying everything in? And have you, obviously, I know before this you said you've kind of been camping most of your life, even before you were into hunting, but, different packs you've had through the years, and what do you use now, and why do you use that versus maybe some of the stuff you've had in the past and what you've learned?
Yeah, I've had some North Face packs, just basic backpacking packs for overnight stuff. And then now I did have a Sitka backpack for a couple years, and now I run a Mystery Ranch Metcalf. It hauls weight really, really well.
Yeah, and actually that's the same pack me and John have had for a few years now too.
Yeah, and it springs open, and there's a nice meat pot package, and your meat straps in there real nice, and your gear goes right back over the top, and you're back on the trail, especially like that when we were in Hawaii there, because them hogs really aren't that much meat by the time you get done cleaning it and getting it to just meat. And so, I mean, you put it in your pack and off you go, and you start hunting again. Because, I mean, we can have 2 hogs and 2 goats and deer, and then your limit starts over again in the morning. So
Jim, like, let's say, for example, me, I got drawn, let's just say, air quotes, I got drawn out west. I'm ready, right? I got my new boots. I got my Sitka gear. I got my new pack. You're preparing long before the week before, right? You're not just putting the boots on and going around the block and then packing everything up and heading out west. You're almost trying to set a situation so that when you get out there, it's almost instinct. Everything, the boots are working, the pack's working, everything. Take us a little bit through that as like your preparation. You gave us the tools, but now how do you prepare?
Yeah, just like I said, the other week we did full sim. All gear went with us on the North Shore there, knowing we're not going to need everything, but just to have full weight and just exactly what you're going to use and get out and use it and make it work and see what adjustments you want to make. I changed from, we had a sleep strap that would go around my air mat and then clip into my quilt. And I changed that to stick-on glue-on pads to the bottom of my sleep mat that stay right with the sleep mat instead of our flopping around loose, because it was fine when we were hiking. But now all of a sudden you want to set up at 9:30 at night in the dark, or 9 at night after you've been out for the day, and you got these black straps you're fumbling around with, and it's just not ideal.
Yeah.
So if you get the time to get out and use your gear, and
tweaking it before you
before you're out there, because once you're out there, I mean, you're out there. It's a day's hike back to a truck, and then a lot of times, half a day's drive to anywhere of any resemblance of a town.
I think that's probably like some of the best advice for a first time elk hunter is, if you're planning a trip like this and you've never been out there and never experienced it, and it doesn't even have to be elk, it could be really any out-of-state Western hunt you're doing by yourself and you're camping. Go use your stuff. You're going to have to tweak some things. Anything to make your trip better. That way if you're not seeing the game, maybe you're getting a better night's rest and you're ready to go for the next day. Like, those little things can go a long, long ways on a trip.
Yep. Just being, like I say, just being able to be stuck to your sleeping pad and not sliding off it all night, waking up cold because you're laying on the ground and not on your sleeping pad. Just some of that stuff just makes a trip just that much better, and you feel better in the morning and you want to go again.
What are you doing for water? We didn't touch on that. How do you do your water system on most of your elk hunts or your camping trips even?
I run the Sawyer filter now. I used to run that MSR ceramic filter. It was a pump style. But the filter weighs so much, and I'm just trying to get my weight down just to make everything more enjoyable. The whole reason I'm doing it.
I guess, and I'm not familiar with a lot of that stuff either. How does that work? You just fill it up and it slowly...
It's a bag that you fill with dirty water from the creek or stream, and then you screw right onto the top of the filter, and then you just squeeze the bag or roll the bag, and so then this would be into
the Sawyer squeeze.
Yep, the Sawyer squeeze.
Okay.
I have the gravity model too for maybe if we were do with like a bigger group. because I think that's a 6-liter bag with a hanging bag for dirty and a clean bag on the ground, and it just gravity feeds through.
And that Sawyer Squeeze, I believe that one also has like a filter where you could run it in line to your bladder.
Yep, you can hook that in line with quick couplers or with just push-ons through your bladder line. And then if you want to have a dirty bladder, then you could always, as long as you knew it was a dirty bladder, from there on out. I don't think...
So if I'm looking at you cross-eyed and bold-legged right now, like what in the hell are you talking about? You're filtering water from a stream. How much? Obviously, your bladder in your pack, but how much water are you filtering for Spike Camp or for?
I carry about 3 liters.
Okay.
I'll have 2 liters in my bladder, and then I'll have a 1-liter bottle, sort of a skinny, tall bottle that fits in my pack real nice that I found. That I'll save for that 1-liter bottle will do my dinner, and it'll make my breakfast, and it'll give me a little water to drink right for meals in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm out of my 2-liter, I still have at night, I have my dinner and I have my breakfast and I have some water to drink throughout the night, not a ton, but I have some water there. And then I do have a 16-ounce Eugenia bottle, just this really tiny one.
So, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Brandon and John, because like if I'm going hunting, I have water. I'm filled up on water, and then I have water when I'm hunting, and then I have water when I get back to my truck. But so are you training your body like in off season on water? Because you're not going to want to bloat on water, when you get back and you're filtering and all that. Are you training your body in off season?
If I no, I hydrate pretty heavily.
Okay.
But yeah, no, if I get to a stream, you can filter 16 ounces, just squeeze the bottle through, and 20 seconds.
Oh, I got
So,
you.
it goes pretty quick.
Yeah, so you're kind of collecting water throughout the day.
Yeah, if I see a nice stream, we'll stop and fill. Even if you're fairly full, you can always fill your dirty bags and leave them dirty.
Yep.
And then when you get something empty, you can squeeze filter that, too. So I do carry 2 dirty bags. They're 16 ounces a piece. I carry 2 just because if one pops,
And then, so like on your unit that you're going on in your Onyx map and you're checking it, you're also looking for water when you're pre-scouting, so like when you're walking in, where that's at. You're not just stumbling across.
Yeah, you're
streams.
looking for it. You do stumble across it though also.
Okay.
There's seeps and wallow areas where water's coming from. A lot of the times it's probably good right from the rock.
Gotcha.
But
Yep.
we still run it through the filter just for...
Avoid that beaver fever.
Right. I don't want that.
And then, so are you eating your meals? Like when you did this prep trip that you were just talking about in the North Shore, like are you kind of going through which meals you like and which are working for you, or power bars, I guess? Maybe you don't eat those. Maybe you do. Like, is that your diet? Or
yeah, I was, we were definitely testing everything, including our meals and what we were going to eat. I got advice from a different podcast, and they told me the best mountain house they ever had was the chicken and mashed potatoes. And then you get to do the side of sweet corn. So I got myself the chicken and mashed potatoes and the side of sweet corn, and I think I had the best meal in the woods out of a mountain house that I've ever had.
That's the ticket, huh?
That is the ticket. I went back and got 2 more so they weren't sold out for fall.
Oh, baby. Name dropping. Mountain House.
but that's
chicken and mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why you test the stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I could have got through the weekend up there with something that I didn't care for. I could have, ate half of it and said, I'll live. We're going to our truck tomorrow and, we'll be good. But if you get into the mountain and you want to be out there 4 days and something you don't like, well, that's sort of too bad. You need them calories. You got to eat it, so start choking.
All right, guys. So obviously I'm probably the most unhealthy dude of this, and I eat a lot, and it shows. But how many times are you eating a day? Are you doing a calorie count? Is there take us through your daily regimen when you're hunting, all three of you? Like what? Okay, I wake up in the morning.
Jim, I can already tell you, Jim's is going to be more hardcore for me.
Because if you guys say one meal or one power bar and then you go hunt all day, then I'm going to throw my headset down and walk out the door.
No, for me, I'm usually grabbing a quick breakfast. I don't eat a lot in the morning, but I'll grab a little bit, and then I'll have a few bars in my pack. So before lunch, I'll have probably have one bar, maybe two, and then you have some type of lunch. I'm usually making sandwiches because I'm usually going on day hunts. Where I'm leaving in the dark, coming back in the dark, but I'm coming back to the vehicle.
Yep.
So I'm not doing what Jim's doing where he's going out for 3, 4, 5 days at a crack. So for me, I'm making a lot of sandwiches, maybe some venison sticks, suppers, when I get back to the truck. Yep. So I'm packing pretty light with my food, 1 or 2 sandwiches and 1 or 2 bars, maybe a couple other little snacks, but that's about it for me.
Like when you say bars, like Cliff, like is that, I don't even know the names.
I'm not too picky. I've had Cliff bars and Nutri-Grain bars, and a lot of times whatever the kids have at the house, I just grab before I leave.
That works. You're talking my language a little bit. Jim, okay, so you're hardcore. Okay, we're 4 days. You're going to go for 4 days on this. Like, what are you doing during the day, or does it switch day to day?
It does. I usually prep a whole day's meal in a 1 gallon Ziploc, and that Ziploc comes out in the morning, and that's what you got for breakfast, and then your snacks go in your top pouch of your pack. So anytime you stop, you can open that, have a snack, grab some nuts, or have a protein bar. My drink mixes go in there. Carry the Mountain Up, Signite, drink mix, different flavors. So,
perfect.
Yeah. Do you weigh out your food day by day before you go? All right, this bag weighs X amount of weight.
I don't much do it for the weight. I do watch the calories just to try to make sure you get enough. It's terrible.
There's never enough calories on those hunts.
No, exactly. I mean, but you got to have it so it's balanced a little bit through.
If you had to estimate your day bag, that 1 gallon bag you just took out, average weight?
2 pounds?
About 2 pounds a day.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And John, you have you gone more than 3-4 days in the backcountry?
Yeah.
Have
yep.
you?
This past year we did a elk hunt. We were back there for 8 days.
Damn.
We went part way back on a wheeler. Okay. And then left 4 days of food on that wheeler. But then from there we still had
just
a few
pre-staging and set up. I got you.
Yeah.
And then are you similar to these guys or different or?
Yeah. So when I was prepping for that hunt, weight was a big deal because we wanted to go to this one area for 8 days or maybe 9. It was a 9-day season. And going in with camp, weapon, all your clothes, water filter system, food, that food is where a lot of the weight comes from.
It does.
It does. It sneaks up on you. And so my goal was, I actually kind of this year dove more in depth into it than I ever had before. And it was fun. I actually really enjoy that part of the hunt well before the hunt, the planning stage, weighing this out, weighing that out. And that's why I was wondering where Jim was at for total weight. Cause that's where I was about, a light day. I think my bag was like a 1.8, that gallon Ziploc bag. That was your food
bag.
Your food bag for the day. Mm-hmm. Well, you go 8 days, 2 pounds a piece.
Mm-hmm. It's a
you
lot.
do the math. Was that 16 pounds?
Yeah,
exactly. So, we ditched 4 days worth at the 4-wheeler and figured, halfway through we'll have a resupply morning or something like that. But yeah, on like the longer hunts, the hunts like that, it's a dehydrated breakfast or maybe instant oatmeal breakfast, and then you have some nuts, some trail mix, a bar, a candy bar. The drink mixes are a great way to get a couple extra calories, and then when something tastes good, you're gonna
and then you have
that water
your big meal is when you get back after dark, and you're settling down and whatever. That's when you make your big, like you were saying, that's when you would eat your taters and your
for
whatever
sure.
Was all. It sounded good, whatever it was.
Chicken, potatoes, corn,
sweet
corn.
corn.
And then like Brandon said, on like a day hunt, there's all sorts of different kind of out of state hunts, right?
Yep.
Obviously, we're kind of talking more about the backcountry stuff, but like on a day hunt where you're not having camp with you because you're back to the vehicle every night. You know, I'm one of those guys that when I'm on a hunt, I want to enjoy it. I have no problem carrying extra food. There's got to be one of the best feelings in the world is sitting behind a spotting scope, watching a mule deer buck and eating like a Pop-Tart or, you know, just some kind of junk food. You know, it doesn't all have to be this high end, you know, dehydrated meals. Like if you're going to, that's the only time you eat Pop-Tarts and I look forward to it because it reminds me of glassing up mule deer, you know?
Yeah. And for me, I've got you said you had a Jetboil. I've got one of the MSR wind burners. And so I've taken that with on a few of my day hunts too and had some mountain houses and some of the dehydrated meals. But I kind of found through, I guess, doing some of that it's a lot of extra room in my pack I'm taking up for just a day hunt. You know, if I don't need to bring that wind burner with and, you know, a couple pouches of food, then it's easier just to throw a sandwich in there. So, but sometimes I do bring it with and kind of depends on the weather. If it's a little colder out, it's kind of nice to do that too. Have a warmer meal.
Yeah.
All right, backcountry guys. You gotta have one of the most important tools is your weapon, your bow. What are you doing with it? Is it your Metcalf packs? All three of you said that's kind of what you're running now. There's a spot right there. I'm cheating because I know the pack, but I have never used the pack. So you're not throwing it on a sling. You're not carrying your bow in your hand until you need it.
Right? I actually do myself.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys do, but my bow is in my hand.
Mine is in my hand all the time.
Yeah.
The only time it's strapped to the pack is if I can't shoot. So if you're a few miles in and you don't get a chance to chase that buck that night, but you try to watch him to the last second and now you're going back out to the truck, it's black. You know, it's dark. You're not shooting. At that point, I might strap it, you know, to my pack, but even then it's just, you know, let's roll.
That's okay. So I'd open foot, insert mouth because I would figure you're going off to a distance, but you're ready to hunt at any time.
Right.
I've run into critters in just
right away
weird spots too. It's just like,
right.
I got blown away because
you
never even thought that they should be there. You know, it's like, what is
for
that?
me? I think I learned that lesson the first time I ever mule deer hunted in North Dakota. I was out there with a buddy, and I actually was fortunate enough to tag out, and so I was just hunting with him, and he had his bow in his pack, and we'd actually spotted a really nice buck. And we probably had to make like a 2-mile loop around to get in position for this deer. And on the way to that deer, we were coming through this draw and we busted out a mule deer at probably like 30 yards and it ran another 30 and it sat there at 60. And the guy that I was with was proficient at 60, so he definitely could make that shot. And in the time it took him to get his bow off the pack, load an arrow, he just started coming back to full draw. That deer ran away. If he would have had his bow in his hand, I mean, he had more than enough time to just draw back. I was already on the rangefinder. He could have shot it. So after I had seen that play out on my first mule deer trip, since then, my bow was in my hand at all time.
And what I love about this podcast is it keeps branching. Like, right, we're headed up the base of the tree, and now we branched off a few things. We got the bow, we got the pack, we got everything in the pack. Some things that go overlooked. Binocular harness, range finder harness, all of that stuff. Like you're suited out, and it has to be accessible. I haven't heard one of you guys talk about a spotting scope. Is that in the pack as well?
Yeah, for me it is.
I don't bring a spotting scope. I run the Swarovski 1556 on tripod though, so that'll be in the pack.
Yeah, that's a must.
Do you carry a smaller pair with you as well, or you just run that bigger pair?
I do carry 1042s around my neck.
Okay.
Yeah, the 1556s are just in the pack for glassing knolls and
is it a harness system that you guys are running? Like a bivy or?
I run a chest harness. You know, fit the binos in it. You can strap your rangefinder to it. A little pocket on the side for your wind indicator, or if you got a elk call or a reed or something. And there are so many options out on that stuff that there are probably more bino harness is out there available.
Well, the reason I brought this up is because Sitka just released their new, don't even know what it's called, but I just watched a YouTube video, and it looks like, honestly, you guys are going in to defend a city. You know, I mean, the dude had bear spray over here on the left and his rangefinder, and he could, like you said, elk reeds.
I was actually watching that video early today, too.
Yeah.
And,
is that the go-to for most of you guys in the backcountry, or is it not that you don't have to go on that in-depth?
Jim?
Or is it a personal preference?
I think it's probably personal preference.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I do carry bear spray. Last year we were in Montana in grizzly country. I did carry a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
Dual yield handgun and bear spray.
Yeah, I was sitting here looking at you. You got 2 guns on you.
Same hand or same side of my pack, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you run your bear spray when you're in Grizz country? Do you run that like on a hip pouch or is that attached to your bino harness?
On the hip strap.
Hip strap.
Yep.
What about for the gun?
On the hip strap also.
On the same side.
On the same side, and I guess myself personally would go for the spray long
First.
before the gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think the gun's maybe for you at that point.
So, hey, Jim, back to
the spray don't work. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Back to the no spotting scope. Is that because of the weight for you? Like you're just trying to cut the weight down with the spotting scope? Or have you found that you just don't prefer that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the binos that I'm running are for where I'm looking and what I want to find. I'm not so concerned of, is it 380 or is it 400 or is it 340? It's a 6x6. Let's go.
Right.
You know,
right.
or maybe it's a 5x6, but okay, let's go.
Right. You're not counting inches.
Yeah, right. I'm not counting inches, and I'm really, I mean, it's a legal critter, and I got it on my glass, and it's over there, and we're over here. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, and for me, I wouldn't consider myself. I'm not an inch counter either, but I'm looking for a decent deer. But I do like having the spotting scope. No, I'm not talking elk hunting, but for mule deer hunting, I run the 10x50s, on my chest, but then I got the spotting scope in the backpack because there are a lot of spots where I can see, and this again maybe is more mule deer country versus where you're hunting, but I can see miles and miles,
And for your spotting scope, like that's another tool that you have to get used to.
Right.
We don't sell a lot of them through the shop, but we're all used to them. The only time I use a spotting scope is on a truck window looking over a bean field, early season, velvet. But if you don't know how to use a spotting scope, there's 2 hours of your scouting that's gone. Where I'm very intrigued by you said 1556 on a tripod.
Yep, I put them on tripod.
And everyone's used to using binos. So that's another tool, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you'd want to use in the off season.
Right.
To know.
Yeah, get used to it. Get
Definitely spend some time on your glass in the off season. Strengthen your eyes, because your eyes will. I mean, if you're think you're gonna spend 6 hours behind glass on the first day you get there, because that's what your plan was, to scout this area and see what you see, you're gonna go batty.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't practice for a while before, put a half an hour in here and there and work up to it a little bit.
Right.
You're just
Right.
And coming from an optic background, if there's a few tools that you don't want to skimp, and optics are probably one of them, in my mind. And you guys add to this. You don't buy a $339 pair of 15x50s because the box looks cool, and you can buy some better arrows. Optics are something that you don't, because scouting is a major contributor to success, if not one of the key ingredients. You guys agree?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you said you're running Swaros. What are you guys running for optics?
Optics wise, I have 10x42 binos, and I am highly considering pulling the trigger on a 12x50 pair for this year for like when I'm out mule deer hunting. Those 10x42s are a great all around bino.
Mm-hmm.
Whitetail hunting here in Minnesota, they work fine for mule deer hunting out west, and like the elk hunting that I've done, where I've been elk hunting, it would be pretty pointless to bring a spotting scope. You can't see that far, and even if you're on one hillside looking or mountainside looking on the other, it would be pointless weight.
And what brand?
I also have a Vortex spotter at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a Vortex spotter. Yep.
And your binos?
My binos are actually a pair of Mioptas.
Okay.
Which is an older pair. I've probably had them for 10 years, but kind of looking at upgrading. Like John, I might pull the trigger this year on some of the 12x50 Vortex myself.
Gotta have them.
And now we're to the point in the podcast where I get scared, because the word is called exercise. Okay. So you three, physical fitness is going to aid tremendously. Take us through, and Jim, you go first if you don't mind. Take us through.
Oh, he's going to make us all look bad.
It's 360 days for you of
It is
training and physical fitness.
Yeah, I run it pretty much 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week.
So take us through not only running, but are you lifting, of course, your nutrition? Like, what's your regimen? What are you doing every day for preparation?
I for the last 2 years now, I've been running the Mountain Tough program.
Okay.
It's an online e-training program. I would recommend it to anybody that wants to go out west and have a good time and get in the backcountry and get back out.
Right.
Yeah, but it's 5 days a week. They try to base somewhere in that hour and a half workouts, and the whole thing is based on mountain preparation, hunting.
So does that focus a lot on like cardio or full body?
We do 2 days of weight training, 2 days of HIIT workouts. So we'd be just going from cardio machine to weights to cardio to weights, back and forth.
High intensity
timed, or we'll do as many rounds of an activity as you can in 45 minutes.
And those ones I would assume are geared to keep your heart rate at a certain spot.
Yeah, you're trying, at this point, I mean, I'm trying to stay up into the 90 percentile in my heart rate.
Through the whole workout.
Through at least 90% of it, you know. I mean, the warm-up brings you into it, and then, of course, your cool-down, that kind of thing will bring you back out. But I really try to definitely not leave the yellow zone on. I run the My Zone chest strap, so then it's constantly on my phone, my heart rate.
So if you're dogging it, you kind of know it, and then you got to
I can't dog it. It's right on my screen in my face.
Yeah, and knowing Jim here, it's more so probably I'm on the verge of redlining. I've got to come back down a little bit.
I do like making new floors for sure.
Take us through some of the stuff, like, because you've done a few events too, haven't you?
Yeah, I did some. I did the Train to Hunt event last year. So we did you'd have your bow stationed at a station, and then there was, I think, 10 guys per heat. 10 heats. There's 100 of us there that day. And so you'd set your bow, you'd run over to a step block and do some kind of step over activity on a 20-inch step block with a sandbag, either step on your shoulders, 20 over the boxes, and then we'd run about a quarter-mile loop. And you'd run right back to your bow and arrow, and then you'd shoot a target at 30 yards. And then you'd go back, and there'd be four activities like that. And you'd keep doing each one and back to your bow and shoot. And then you had your pack laying there. I think it was a 40-pound pack last year. And then you grabbed that. After you got through with that, you grabbed your pack and your last 2 arrows and headed on, they called the mountain course through the ski hills. And that last year ended up being a 2.5 mile course up and down through the ski hills.
So what's a time on that? Like, how long did you do it in?
I don't even remember what my total time was, because they take into consideration your shots that you made on your 30 yards. So you had 4 shots there that had time penalties, if you will, if for not heart ring shots. I remember I was able to manage to get 2 heart rings and a lung and then a body. So the body one hurts pretty bad. I think you get nicked about 2.5 minutes. So,
wow.
But
did you win?
So it's worth it to slow down and regain your heart rate, get your concentration when you're taking that shot in that competition.
You do got to try to make, good shots. That's definitely geared to, they want you making good shots in the wild. So, they're going to penalize you for making a wounding shot.
Mm-hmm.
They're calling it a you're going to be tracking all day. So here's your penalty for that, you know?
Right.
So yeah. And then I just signed up, just yesterday for it's called Beast Mode Archery Challenge, in Wisconsin. Basically the same kind of event, maybe a little longer pack. And then we're going to do a sled drag and a heavy pack out. So after the
there's
kill.
simulation challenges, and it's you're also using it. It's a fun way to train.
It's definitely a fun way to train. It gives you a reason to really push harder. A lot of these guys that do this they're pretty crazy.
They're athletes.
Yeah, they're real athletes.
Yeah.
Would I finish in the top 50?
It's a possibility.
Are there 50 people that are crazy enough to go do these? That's the real question.
Well, he said 100, and I was like
there was
thinking in my mind, there's 100 of these little mountain rats running around with just. I could be the announcer, I guess.
There you go.
So we'll stick to that.
Jim, was it your first train to hunt that you've come into the shop and you've been telling us about these and you tell us about how hard you work out, but I just want to touch on one thing here. So was it the first train to hunt that you did where you slowed down and you chatted with the guy for just a few seconds?
I did. I was probably chatted with him for like 30 seconds.
And can you tell us what transpired from that?
Well, took me from 3rd place to 4th place and no medal or nothing. But
Boom, boom, boom.
all to chat with my actually ended up being a schoolmate of my son's. As I passed him from the heat in front of me 15 minutes earlier, he left.
So you're trying to be a nice guy.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling the best at that point.
Now, I want to touch on this. So Jim does these Mountain Tough programs, and this was last year, right, that this all went down in like June or May?
Yeah, I think it was in June, yeah.
In June. So Jim comes back, and he's talking about how he missed 3rd place by 7 seconds.
Yeah, I think it was 15 or 17 seconds or something. But yeah, it was just...
So it was close. And then, within a couple of weeks, I was talking to Jim and, hey, how's the workout stuff going? I know he's going hard on this Mountain Tough program. Oh, it's really good. I went so hard last night that I was just dry heaving. I mean, he's pushing himself multiple times too. And then he comes, I got to make up that 15 seconds. I got to make it up. And that's what was going through his head for quite a while. And I always got a crack out of it because I have not pushed myself that hard in years, nor do I plan to.
And obviously anyone that's as crazy as you are with doing some of these things, obviously you like to work out and you like to train, but most of that got started from hunting, right? Like you want to be in better shape for your hunts.
Right. And now, yeah, it did start out that way. And now it's been to the point where it's, I don't know, almost some kind of weird addiction for me now.
Yeah.
That I got to get my workout in for the day, or at least 4 a week. If I miss one day in there, I can manage, but yeah.
And obviously, you've noticed a pretty big difference from like your hunting, just everyday life in general, but when you're on these hunts and you get to day 5, day 6, day 7.
Yeah, I'm still good.
Right. From like your training now versus when you weren't training as hard. I mean, is it a pretty big difference that you've noticed, as far as packing out, hiking around that day, just feeling good the next day when you wake up?
Definitely a difference just in how you feel every day out there.
Yeah.
And the guys that you're with, you notice, like you say, on the 3rd day, the 4th day, you can see them fading. If you're hunting together, all of a sudden you're stopping more and they're back there, it's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. They're just burning down, your legs get sore, they get tired, they just don't go.
Brandon, you work out a ton. Is it the same kind of regimen?
No,
I mean, we're not comparing ourselves to Goliath over here, but
nothing's like what Jim does. But yeah, I try to work out, 5-6 days a week. My workouts are not an hour and a half long like Jim's are. I've got 2 young kids at home, so mine can't be that long. But I usually go for half hour to an hour, and they kind of vary, kind of like what Jim does. I do a few days of weight training. A lot of my stuff is like, obviously I'm not a giant person, so None of my stuff is to get huge.
Yeah.
It's just to stay light, stay nimble. So I do a lot of reps, lower weight, a lot of reps. Try to keep the heart rate up. I run a few miles a week. I can't go run a marathon or anything, but I try to run here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my stuff's, core, high rep if I am lifting any type of weights, but a lot of core, a lot of legs. All the stuff that I do is purely just for hunting.
And that's what that was going to lead, John, and I'll get back to you on that. But this is to better your hunt.
Correct.
So it doesn't, common sense, it's not just for out west do-it-yourselfers. If all you're going to have is a Wisconsin tag or a Minnesota tag, if you're in shape and you're healthy, everything is going to perspire off of that. It's going to build up. I mean, even from dragging your deer out or quartering it in the field, taking that out. If you're in shape, you're doing a hell of a lot better than the guys that aren't. Now, don't get me wrong. In the Midwest, some people can drive a side-by-side right up to the deer and take care of it. But you feel better. You get up in the tree better, or your spot and stock's a lot better. It's not just pertaining to out west or West River. Mm-hmm. But that's basically what you guys do. You do both. All three of you do both. John, what is your workout? I mean, you've been kind of busy here the last 2 months with life.
My workout regiment's pretty pathetic compared to these guys. There's basically no workout regiment in my life. I'm the youngest guy at the table here, and the past few years, like once we start hitting, July, that's a time of year where I also have a bird dog, and mornings, I run her 4 or 5 mornings a week, getting her ready for hunting season. And as she gets older, that, we're not going quite as far, but that continual repetition is pretty important for her. Now she runs, I don't. I walk, but as it depends on what I'm doing for hunts that year. Last year I did a relatively intense elk hunt, and so I started, very little weight in that pack, maybe 20 pounds, and I'm going 3-4 miles that morning, and then progressing up. And I think by the time we hit September, I had 80 pounds in my pack, and even doing that multiple mornings a week for some amount of a distance and trying to keep a certain pace of a certain time zone. I'm not lollygagging out there.
And you're putting your hunting boots on. You're breaking your boots in.
Yes. At this point,
I've
got my boots on. Because those are the boots I also wear for basically every hunt that I go on.
Okay.
So that part, depending on the hunt I'm going on, I'll ramp that up or ramp it down. And on my days off, I'll try to go a little farther. I think like last year at one point I was like at 60 pounds in my pack, and I told myself I was doing 10 miles that morning. And this is still a month out from that hunting trip or that elk hunt that I went on. On some of the years where I'm not doing a hunt like that, I go a little softer. I'm still young enough.
You're being honest, and that's the cool thing about it is, you can dive into this as far as you want.
Being bullheaded enough and younger, I'm okay with kind of embracing the suck. And in a few years, I know Jim's kind of smiling right now that ain't gonna cut the mustard, and I can definitely tell that already. Starting to get a little bit older, but I think that's something that's going to become a little more regular in my life here soon.
Yeah.
So
I know for me, back before I was really doing anything, kind of like what John's saying a little bit, where I was just using youth on my side.
Yeah.
You'd have a good trip, you'd be successful, but that pack out would be like, and I'm not a big guy, I'm 150 pounds. So if I pack out a deer, that's a lot of weight if I got to go a few miles, right? Get back to the truck, and it maybe take me twice as long as it should have. And you empty that pack out, and it almost like took away from the trip because it sucked so bad, right? And now with the training that I've done, and it gets easier over the years as you kind of learn your system on the gear you're using too, but the pack outs are part of the fun for me now. Like I really enjoy that. That's part of what feels good and makes the trip, is those hikes in or out. Or if you are successful or a hunting partner successful, helping them pack that meat out is part of the fun, and that's what makes the trip now. Mm-hmm. So I think that training for me, it just definitely makes the trip more enjoyable.
That elation of taking the pack off at the truck when there's meat in it, I don't think there's any way to replicate that feeling anywhere. That is...
Well, you get pretty close when you're eating it. You can relive that. But so, okay, you guys are physically fit. Got your packs. You got all of your stuff. You got to make the shot. when it boils down to that situation. Take us through your practice regimen. We're going to go how you practice first, and then I want to know what you guys are shooting for your out west trips. I don't care about what we're doing here for deer, or maybe it's the same. But Jim, you start when do you start incorporating in your practice? Are you like you said, and we know that you shoot leagues here in the off season, but take us through your practice regimen for archery hunting.
I try to stay shooting at least once a week. At some point, I try to get out. I like going out to Clearwater to shoot.
Okay.
It's got a nice little range out there. It's a little bit of elevation change. You can shoot from a few different spots and have some different yardages, all from one shooting location. I think you can get about 6 yardages and
nice.
Some different elevations there. So I try to sneak out there once a week, sometimes only every 10 days or so, and then shoot, 50 to 70 arrows and call it an evening. And
so you're shooting 100 arrows a week, we could say. Say if 100 to 150 a week is where you're
honestly, probably just once a week I'm shooting probably that 60 to 70 arrows a week.
And then do you amp up, a couple weeks prior to it, or is that get you to where you're confident for going into the hunt?
Do start shooting. I have 30 yards in the backyard that I can shoot. So I do start shooting maybe 6 weeks before. I shoot a lot of that 30 yard in the back there.
But you shoot our leagues here too in the winter. So you're shooting all year.
I shoot all year pretty much.
So when you do shoot regularly throughout the year, you can kind of just maintain through the summer and ramp back up right before.
Right, you don't even
feel confident.
I don't even feel a lag or a go away, if you will, or a get back into it that some guys talk about. I got to get back into shooting. Well, my form, I feel that my form's there. My back muscle's fine.
If you don't ever stop, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I draw my bow every week, and so I think that is really important to shoot that much at least. And depending on how you're shooting, maybe a guy needs to shoot more. If he's not feeling as confident as he thinks he should in his own head, well, then get to the range more.
Jim, are you doing anything like, do a little workout or try to get your heart rate up and then shoot? Are you doing anything like that to add a little pressure, or try to simulate that shot a little more? Like if you were shooting at a note?
I do from time to time. If I will go with a couple of buddies, we'll try to make it interesting or put a little wagers on it to even that'll help get the
mind going,
the heart rate going and the mind going, and you're thinking all of a sudden you got a $20 bill on this arrow, with your buddy here. So
right. Yeah.
What about when you're getting into the right before season shooting? Are you always shooting from a standing position? Are you taking shots off, your butt seated on the ground from your knees? Do you incorporate any of that kind of stuff?
Definitely go through all the scenarios of ways to shoot. These programs that I've run that train to hunt, and I'm pretty sure there's Beast Mode Archery that I'll be doing here in July. They all had shots where you even had to take 4 steps basically on your hands and knees, or just on your knees, forward before you could even see your target. So they made you do some stuff like that throughout that course too, which really brought to light that you got to practice that more.
Okay.
So, and even just working with your feet out of position on purpose, or putting a rock in your shooting area, something that's 10 inches high or 12 inches high, and standing 1 foot on that, just to have that experience of shooting that way. And then I suppose from about here on out, as far as shooting 3D courses, I will shoot them full loaded with my pack on, with full gear in, and shoot the whole 3D course.
You're a better man than me.
Very interesting. Brandon, what's your practice routine?
So I usually am shooting at home by myself.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had a couple of kids, and we get really busy here in the shop in July, August, September. So I don't have a lot of time to go shoot with buddies. So most of it's by myself. But for me to add a little bit of pressure on myself, especially as it gets closer to the hunting season, I'll take like an NFA single spot or 5 spot, depending on how far I'm shooting. And I'll actually jot down on a notebook what I scored at each distance. So let's say I shoot 3 or 4 arrows is usually what I keep my groups to. I usually don't shoot any more than that before I go get my arrows. So if I'm shooting 3 arrows or 4 arrows at 20, 30, 40, all the way out to 100, I'll mark down what I scored, and that might be all I shoot that day. And then the next time I go shoot, I try to better that score. And the next time I shoot, I try to better that score, right? So I'm always trying to, I at least have it in my mind. I'm trying to outdo myself, right? So you have a little bit of added pressure. I'm not just going out in the yard and just flinging arrows. So it does make you think a little bit, and it adds that at least a little bit of pressure. Mm-hmm. And that's what you need. You need to try to find something, anything that will add a little bit of pressure while you're shooting, to try to replicate that hunting shot when you're going to have a lot of pressure.
Yeah. John? Practice.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Basically shoot my bow year round, foam targets, 3D targets. Like Brandon said, I end up doing a lot of my shooting by myself, early in the morning before work. You get home and it's still just light enough. I love shooting like post sunset, but before dark. And it's not a ton of arrows in one repetition, typically that time of day. Mm-hmm. When we do get a day off, again, middle of the week, there's not a lot of other guys, everyone else is at work. So nothing to go do with your buddies. So it's a great time to shoot. I'm kind of the opposite though. I like to shoot a lot of arrows at the target before I go get them. Mm-hmm. They won't all be from the same distance, but I might shoot 3 arrows from 50, 3 arrows from 65, 3 arrows from 70, 3 arrows from 90, and kind of, okay, they're all on the target. Now I'll go get them. And putting that pressure on yourself of like, okay, back when I'm at 70, 80, 90, 100 further, that kind of stuff, I am trying to keep my grouping all there. So the arrows that I shot at 40 and 50 that are good, they're right in the money zone. I'm trying to keep that group the same size as far back as I'm going out, and putting that pressure on yourself to try to be there with every shot or every distance is, again, just replicating, making them good, make every shot count.
That's perfect. And I'm encouraging our listeners. We have a separate podcast. You can go through our library and look it up about off-season preparation as far as shooting. And we dive way further in than we're going to do today because there's still a lot of topics we're going to talk about here quick. But listen to that, and it's from guys other than this panel. One thing that I'd say, especially if you're going out west, I like to imitate what I'm shooting, rather it be a muley or an antelope or an elk, and then I'll quarter that 3D target towards me or away from me. Mm-hmm. Practice situations. But go check out our other podcast and listen in on that. Brandon, I know that you have a pretty important question here before we end things, and we're not ending it right now, but what are you shooting, Jim, as far as a bow and equipment?
I shooting the Matthews Vertex. I've been shooting it for 2 years now. I got it when it just came out. It really shoots nice for me. It's just one of them bows that I put in my hand, and it was just shooting, and mm-hmm. I honestly didn't even shoot the new one this year, but about 3 shots I put out of it, and I just wanted my old one, and just right. I usually upgrade or trade them in every year.
Yep.
And just go to the new bow, and I don't know. I just never did this year, and
it fits.
It fits, and I'm gonna run it. And
what are you shooting for arrows?
The
Rip TKO.
Rip TKO, yeah. I gotta ask my guys on
These
that.
are your dudes here.
Yeah.
Set them up.
Yeah, he's got me set up with shooting. They're nice and straight. So
and
you just know that they shoot.
Yeah,
they shoot really good. These guys get
these guys get blades.
Yeah, fixed.
A lot of your Western hunters
actually shoot
solids.
Solids.
Yeah.
How about release aid? Is it handheld? Is it trigger?
Handheld. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And I think If we haven't heard already, Brandon, we kind of know what you're running, but do you switch when you go out west? Is anything different?
No, usually not. I usually run the same. If I'm whitetail hunting with that bow,
Yeah.
I usually get 2 bows every year, and whatever one I like the best, that's kind of my main bow for whitetail muled or whatever I'm doing, and the other one's kind of the backup. But so VXR is what I'll be using this year, probably for my main bow. That's what I use turkey hunting. I also have the Bowtech Revolt, which I really like as well. But so far, I don't know. The Matthews I think I'm more used to that grip, than the Bowtech grip myself. So just feels a little better in my hand. But
And you have success
awesome.
with it already in 2020. Your confidence levels through the roof.
Yeah, it's lucky so far.
Yeah, John.
I actually have the same bows as Brandon. I'm running the VXR 31.5 and the Bowtech Revolt X, so the taller axle, the axle options on both of those. And I have very similar setups on both of my bows. They're both kind of dialed in over the years for the site that works well for me for when I'm out west, but it's very successful for whitetail hunting also. Not a lot of pins, slider style site that like I can reach out and touch there a little bit, but works very, very well for whitetail hunting also. The only thing I really have different between my 2 bows, on one of my bows I have a 2-piece fixed quiver that doesn't come off, and on my other bow it's a removable quiver. But I usually don't ever take that off either. I like my quiver on the bow. I like a heavier bow.
Gotcha.
What are you running, Wade? For bows this year?
One, I'm not going out west this year. I didn't get drawn in Montana. So I guess my western hunts are still going to be eastern, South Dakota, North Dakota. I have a bow set up strictly for long range right now. It's the Revolt X. It's a little bit lighter arrow setup, and then I'm shooting just a double up pin. So it's like a single pin design, and then that's dialed out to 100. I won't shoot at an animal at 100, but I dang sure will at 85.
What about follow-up shot?
300.
Yeah, if you can see them.
For the folks that are listening, that's my pride. That's my workout. I take shooting absolutely more serious than anything else, and it's probably hindered me in the past because you do have to get in on the animal. You got to do your scouting, and if I can't make it 2 ridges over to get to the elk, doesn't matter how far or close it is. Doesn't matter if I can pinwheel one, So I lack on the whole physical side of things, but my shooting I take very seriously, and then my VXR 31.5, I can shoot it far, but it's just not, my arrow setup is not for long distance. My pin gaps are pretty big. It's probably the heaviest arrow I've ever shot, but that'll be for tree stand hunting. And if I get into a blind or a spot and stock, that's going to be more of a Midwest setup. But it's definitely a difference between the two. But I'd say the Revolt X for long distance right now is just, and then a swear word in my regiment is fixed blade, but I'm actually going to shoot a fixed blade this year on that bow, just because of the tunability.
Amen.
Which ones are you shooting, or don't you know yet?
I got a package of the G5s, strikers from Dan, and I've seen what he can do with them. So they really, really intrigued me. Is it the Hades?
Grim Reaper, Hades.
Yep. I've heard a lot of things about that. So, and that's it's 4 or 5 weeks from now. I got on my schedule. It's going to be a 3-week process for fixed blades, because I'm not new to it, but I'm new to it with this bow.
Now, if you want to talk about preparation, I feel like that's a super overlooked thing. How many guys just open up a broadhead, screw it on, and go? And you're saying you're spending 3 weeks shooting broadheads before you decide what one you're even going to use.
And it's not fair to say, but I'm spending, I'll lay down $300 on broadheads, because I'm not shooting something that looks like it or something that comes in the pack. I'm shooting the broadhead.
Yep.
And it's gonna hit at a golf tee at 70 yards before I ever put it in.
Right. You're taking those broadheads just like if you were buying a rifle and you're buying 5 different shells to see which one shoots the best out of that.
Yep. So not only tunability, because we can really manage that, but situations like I'm going to one day when, I'll look at Weather Channel and it says it's going to be 25-mile-an-hour gusts, I'm going to go shoot it. And I'm going to measure my grouping, and I'm going to see what it is from 50, 60, 70, and 80. And then one day when it's, piss and rain, I'm going to go shoot them. And I'm going to see how they perform in that situation. because I know what it does here in the shop with no variables. You know, that's easy. But yeah, that's kind of my regimen, and I do the same thing with mechanicals. There's really only two styles. There's an over the top, or there's a slip cam design. They're super easy to figure out, but there's some states you can't use mechanicals. You know,
Right.
and then I like to cut on contact with a little bit lighter arrow setup, kind of opposite of what everyone's kind of doing right now, but that's on a whole nother podcast that we haven't talked about.
Jim, what do you got coming for hunts in 2020?
We're doing a over the counter in Colorado.
Okay.
Is this a spot you've been to before? Or this is brand new?
No, it's going to be brand new to me. My hunting partner was there last year. Hunted it, scouted some areas, so hopefully it looks the same as he was there last year and no one else has moved in. That'll be good.
I hope
so,
it is an awesome hunt for you, because the guy that you're going with sent me a text from his inReach last year, and I can move in on that if I ever get days off in September.
So what's your, I guess going into that, what's your guys' plan? Are you you're planning on going in for 4 or 5 days and then coming back out to resupply if needed?
Yep, that's what our plan will be. It's to have everything else back at the truck for other than what you need for 4 days. I'll probably have, an extra sleep pad, sleeping bag, this kind of thing at the truck, and we might even have a tent camp at the truck for one night if we got to hike out and come out in the dark and then go back in the morning or something. We'll have to
Leave like a heavier tent at the truck.
Just something like a 6-person or 5-6 person tent where you can stand up in it and still walk around. And
in case you're hauling meat back, or
you can get crashed there at the night or
2
whatever.
days of just horrible weather or something.
Yep,
that's a really smart plan. I think a lot of guys overlook that kind of stuff.
Where are you going, Brandon?
Well, so far I've struck out on a lot of tags. I did not draw my North Dakota mule deer tag for archery. I put in for Nevada elk and mule deer and did not draw that. I put in for Wyoming antelope for some rifle tags, and I did not draw that. So currently I'm going to Kansas. That's the only thing I've drawn. So we'll see. I've got another application that should hear back for in a few weeks here. But so far I've struck out on the drawing, but I did draw Kansas, so I'm going there for sure for whitetails.
Well, that's good. If you sit next to me on a plane, I'm going to get up and get off, because bad luck's on your side this year.
Yeah.
John, you going out west?
So I'm kind of doing 2, like what I would call western hunts. So like western North Dakota, western South Dakota.
Okay.
So not like super far away, not super intimidating. Great place to get your feet wet on, some of the other gear that we've been talking about. Something more like sleep systems are not important because you're back to the truck every night. So I have a North Dakota any deer tag and a South Dakota deer tag, which is good for whitetail or mule deer. And then I'm doing a cushy elk hunt this year. Drop camp, first season Colorado rifle. Was there a couple of years ago, and it doesn't matter what shape you're in. It's not too tough. Now,
I thought you were going to say high fence, but that's
nothing like that. It's just where the camp is and where the terrain lays around it. It's not super intimidating. Again, maybe a great place for someone to get their feet wet of Western hunting, but doesn't want to go through the gear and carrying everything, and you get trucked in on a horse and camp's all set up and life's pretty good.
I know we're running a little long, but I don't care because I'm having fun and this is cool. This just came up. Equipment. Obviously, sometimes your cell phone's not going to work. Or what are you doing for charging that? Or do you have a satellite phone? Or what are you doing for your communication? Or are you just going in and not worrying about it?
Oh, no, I have a charger, mobile power or whatever for your phone. And then I have the Garmin inReach.
Okay.
So
would you recommend that for guys going out west?
I would. I've never had anything really for service enough to say it's service.
Mm-hmm.
For the wife to get a text once a day, she likes that, just to know you're
absolutely
you're still at least sending letters out to her. So even if they're meaningless ones, at least they get there.
So that inReach, that's a satellite messenger that Bluetooths to your phone.
Yep, and you just text off your phone through that as long as your inReach is on.
Yep.
And then it sends it out through that and then back down to...
Probably one other of the coolest features that those inReaches have is the ability to check weather for where you are.
Oh, yeah. And I think there's a 5-day forecast they put out.
I know there's a 3 for sure.
Yeah, and the wind forecast on it seemed to be pretty accurate for when I was using it. Some of the rain stuff in the mountains, it'll just a rainstorm will just come by and get you wet, but it doesn't really say too much about them. But if it was an all-day event coming, then it had that in the forecast too. So,
you guys doing kind of the same thing? Do you have that system, or are you just running?
I don't myself.
Batteries for your cell phone, just battery pack.
And again, I'm usually just doing those day hunts, so I'm not doing what Jim's doing for multiple days. But charge my phone up in the morning and hope I don't use it too much.
That works, John. Like your last year, your big hunt. Did you do the same thing? Yeah. Obviously, you're very up on what it is.
Very, very similar. So the Garmin inReach Mini is the one.
That's the one I run too. Yeah,
a little lighter. Not as many buttons on it. It has it does have an SOS button on it. So like if stuff goes real south and things aren't going your way, if you get major injury, hurt, something like that. I believe when you purchase that unit, and don't take this for like 100% truth, I would have to double check everything. But when you purchase that unit, part of purchasing it, part of what you pay goes towards an insurance policy that if you hit that SOS button, you're not worried like, oh my gosh, this helicopter ride is going to cost me thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a safety device, one, but also gives you the ability to communicate via satellite, via text off of your phone. But yeah, that thing was awesome to be able to check weather for where we were. We actually hunted 3 different units in a 9-day season. So being able to just go on the fly, run your phone on airplane mode all day, so your OnX map is working, and then some kind of a little battery backup to charge your phone on.
For sure.
And usually I could get like almost 2 full days out of my phone before I had to charge it.
And I guess I should have said that too, but like when I'm using my phone on those day hunts, I don't even have a chargeable, an extra source of battery power, but my phone's always in airplane mode.
You're not on Instagram or you're not on Facebook.
I'm not on that anyways.
But you should be.
Tinder for Brandon.
Yeah. You're out there for a reason, I hope. Let's finish this up. Let's go around the horn. And what would be your number one tip for a first-time elk hunter / out west hunter? Brandon, you start us off. Like, what is your number one tip for someone that's just ready to step up their game?
So you're saying they're committed, they're going.
Yep.
I would say the number one tip, I'll probably take the easy one here, but would be kind of like what we talked about before, is use your equipment. Use the equipment you have or the equipment you purchase beforehand. Do a simulation, like what Jim did. If it's a weekend or even if it's just a 1 day, maybe you're just doing a day hunt thing like I am. Well, then put your pack on and get your boots on and start using it before you get out there. So I think a lot of it is just testing your equipment and actually using it before you get out there. So if you need to make any tweaks, because it's a lot easier to do that at home than when you're out there and that now you can't make any tweaks and you just got to deal with it.
Jim, what would be your tip for the guy that's committed, but it might be their first or second time? What would be your number one tip?
Don't start getting ready in August.
Okay.
Get ready now. Now is the time physical right now is when you need to start. You can't start in August and think you're going to be ready in September.
Gotcha.
There's just not enough days in there for recovery time for a guy that ain't been working out.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Yeah, and I don't know when this is going to air, but this is June right now.
Yeah, we're recording this podcast.
We're recording this in June. Yep.
So
Jim's talking months and months beforehand.
Definitely. It just makes your trips so much better.
Perfect. John, you're number one.
For the guys that are committed, that they're actually going, follow through. Just go. The first year, don't put too many expectations on the first year, but go get your feet wet, next year can always be better, you know, and for the guys I know in the shop that come in and shop and they, ask a lot of questions, ask a lot of advice. They're going and doing this hunt. When those guys come back, half of them already planning their next hunt, you know, and it's get your feet wet and go and do it, because you've only got so many years to do it. We've only got so many Septembers, like Jim said earlier, or maybe it's not September, maybe it's a different hunt in October, November, whatever it might be, but go out and do it. Because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to get to be, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good tip too. Set the expectations, not necessarily low, but maybe low as far as filling a tag or what you might shoot. Just enjoy being out there in the scenery and the country you're hunting and the game you're pursuing. Don't put so much pressure on the actual kill.
Yeah, and I think we did a podcast with Jared with Hunting Fool, right. and that was a real big eye opener, because he's that's his company is setting it up, and that when he said that, like, you're not going to be successful half the time or more than half the time, but success isn't reached on how many inches of antler you're putting on your packets. There's a lot of other things, and you guys can attest to that, because I know personally all three of you have come home empty-handed, once or twice, and it happens.
It happens, yeah.
But you still had a successful hunt.
I had a great time.
I would say, for the few hunts that I've been out west, if you can do more research, and I want you to be very, very careful on your research. Don't type in something on YouTube and watch it and think that you're the next Cameron Haynes or the next Jim Schulte. Do weed through that and come in here, and there's experts in the field. We're not just salesmen. There's experts on boots and packs. Okay, you don't just go buy a pack off of the shelf. It might have to fit you. You might be 150 pounds, 5'8", or you might be 6'3" and weigh 225 and, ribbed. Different packs fit different boots fit different clothing works different. Trust your experts. And, be willing to put in a little time, I guess a little legwork, no pun intended, on that. But, Jim, this was an awesome podcast. I appreciate it all, and I think we're going to probably have many more coming up. Like to get with you after season, kind of tell us, what you're going to change. What I really want to hear about this train to hunt, and you said the beast mode is the next one that's on the list?
Yeah, that's coming up in July here. We're doing that.
It'd be cool to talk about that and have some videos to go along with it. But we're going to wrap things up here. We appreciate it. On behalf of Brandon and John and Jim, we thank you. My name is Wade. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, we are on a bunch of platforms now for podcasts, so you can just basically type it in Google. Obviously, you're listening to this one, so you know where we're at. But on behalf of Archery Country, thank everybody, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you for listening to Archery Country Podcast.